Hi guys, how are you all today morning? Good morning. Today is 20th July 2023. My name is TSV Raghavan and I live in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. This is my spiritual vlog on YouTube. Haribol TRSV Nectar NECTAR Nectar. In this particular vlog, in all my previous videos, we have been discussing about the knowledge and information that we have gleaned through the study of spiritual books, scriptures, contemplation on the material universe, and meditation on the spiritual universe. This particular video is no exception to that rule. In fact, it is just a mere continuation of what we have been doing in all my previous videos. So today, let us continue with the discussion for the topic of today in this video. We have been discussing about the analysis of the psyche of every human living entity during one lifetime in his endless cycle of births and deaths. His means hers also. It is applicable to both men and women. We all know by now that the main factors that affect the psyche of a human living entity, whether male or female, depends on the following factors. They are prarabdha karma, kriyamana karma, the vibrations from the subtle bodies of etheric senses, astral mind of feelings and emotions, and causal mind of intelligence, plus that particular living entity's false ego. These are the main factors that affect the psyche of a human living entity during one particular lifetime of that particular living entity. We have also discussed about several case histories which will authenticate this theory to the viewer of this video quite well. Today we shall discuss about another such case history which will give us an in-depth idea of the psyche of a human living entity and how it works in his or her life in a particular birth. There is a township called Jolarpet near the suburbs of Chennai, Tamil Nadu. In other words, this Jolarpet lies between the Chennai Mangalore route. There lived in Jolarpet one particular person called Jnana Shekharan. This Jnana Shekharan was quite influenced by the agitations and the protest by a group called the Periyar Community Group, which was pro-Dravidian and anti-system right from his childhood, teenage, and adulthood. This guy was an ardent believer in the fact that the system of the ruling party of that particular period was against him and his clan. This gave him a prejudiced approach towards life where he felt like a person who was the hurt party, and so he suffered from what is known as persecution mania. This Jnanashekaran had one son who was born to him in the year 1971. This baby was christened Perarivalan. This baby was brought up with the tonic of prejudice right from his childhood, where his father fed this boy's innocent, gullible, and vulnerable brain with anti system literature and theories and made him also feel that he was also to suffer from persecution mania. Slowly but steadily, the wet clay or the soft clay that this boy's brain was molded by the sculpture of a father Jnanashekaran to think that he had to survive only by fighting against the establishment. This child, in spite of this, was actually a very intelligent and capable boy who did very well in his academic studies. Thus, this boy graduated and took up electronics engineering for his professional qualification. Slowly but steadily, he rose up the rung of social status by clearing his course exams in electronics. He was in his third or fourth year in electronics as an engineer when one day this boy was approached by a person called Murugan. This Murugan belonged to Sri Lanka and he was a member of the dreaded militant organization Liberation Tigers of Tamil. This LTT or Liberation Tigers of Tamil was fighting against its own establishment in Sri Lanka. This by this boy had been brainwashed by his own father to think and act against his own establishment in India. These two fruit cakes in search of a brain met with each other and grabbed each other's hands enthusiastically. They thought that they will be doing human service to this society if they joined together against their respective systems. This Murugan was a bomb expert. He wanted one particular electronic battery to help him in making a particular bomb. Perarivalan, who was just either a teenager or was in his early 20s, readily agreed to supply that battery to Murugan just because Perarivalan himself was an electronics engineer in the making. Now we come to karma. Perarivalan must have done something in his past birth, as a result of which the slice of prarabdha karma that he brought from his own sanchit karma for this particular birth came with a sort of mixture which made him be born in the family of a radical anti-national guy called Jnana. That was precisely why his prarabdha karma made him absorb or drink up all the unnecessary rubbish that his father threw on him through his endless diatribes against the system. This made this boy more and more anti-national in his thoughts. This was all because of his own prarabdha karma. This prarabdha karma also helped him academically and made him qualify as an electronics engineer. And that is why in his prarabdha karma, this boy met a person like Murugan with like-minded thoughts against his own system in Sri Lanka. It was the prarabdha karma and the false ego of Per Arivalan that this guy got very enthusiastic when he was approached by Murugan to supply this battery. However, till now only the prarabdha karma works on behalf of Per Arivalan. Of course, a large dosage of his own false ego and wrong beliefs helped in his building up a particular character. However, this particular prarabdha karma made him slip into a free will and start doing some kriyamana karma on his own based on his own free will in this particular birth. Per Adivalan's kriyamana karma began when he enthusiastically supplied a battery to Murugan and Murugan used it to make a human bomb. Advertently or inadvertently, Per Arivalan became a part of a terrorist and assassination group which later on assassinated a leader like Mr. Rajiv Gandhi in Sri Perumbudur at the outskirts of Chennai, Tamil Nadu. This Kriyamana karma was going to take over the life of Per Arivalan completely. Gone were the days when he was living only his prarabdha karma. Now, because of this assassination, Per Arivalan, who was still only in his early 20s, who was a brilliant student and who was poised to become a good electronic engineer and do good to the society, ended up in Vellore prison. He was sentenced to life by the Indian government for this dastardly act. It must be accepted that this guy did not make that bomb, but he indirectly facilitated making such a bomb for Murugan. This made him a co-accused, co-accused in this uh, assassination attempt, and the success of such assassination attempt. He was a co-conspirator, and so he was sentenced to life imprisonment in Vellore Central Prison, Tamil Nadu. All this was because of his own free will and Kriyamana Karma. However, this Kriyamana Karma turned a new leaf as soon as Perarivalan landed in prison. Suddenly, this guy got contrite and began regretting his own doings in this conspiracy and for participating in such a dastardly crime against Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. Brilliant as brilliant a student as he was, Perarivalan continued his studies according to his own free will and Kriyamana Karma and got a lot of qualifications and certificates in electronics and other subjects inside the prison. However, he had to languish in this prison for 30 odd years, and ultimately, finding that this guy had not been though so dangerous as it appeared, the Indian government decided on the intervention of the higher ups to release him on parole against his sentence in this prison. After spending 30 years of his young life in Vellore Central Prison, where Arivalan has ultimately been released a few years back. However, this shows that one mistake in his Kriyamana Karma by this boy changed his destiny forever. It is true that he worked out almost 90% of his Kriyamana Karma in this birth, in this punishment, through this punishment and uh, through languishing in prison in Vellore, Tamil Nadu Central Jail. This shows that a person must always use his or her free will positively and not negatively. Where Arivalan was lucky to work out all the Priyamana karma in this birth itself. However, it is not necessary that this should apply to all who use their Kriyamana karma negatively. If they are not able to work out all their free will Kriyamana karma in that particular birth itself, a residue of that remains and it becomes a part of his or her agami karma, as a result of which it is certainly going to affect their future births. Perarivalan was lucky enough to regret his negativity and his negative feelings, though he was not really responsible for his indoctrination, indoctrination in a negative way by his father. That was all because of his pre prarabdha karma. But because he misused the tutoring his father had given him in his young age, and for that he had used his own free will to commit such a dastardly act, he had to repay for his sins. And lucky he was that he could do it in this particular birth itself. However, his prime of life of 30 years, right from his early 20s to his early 50s, was spent wasting inside a prison, as a result of which, despite being electronically and academically so brilliant and qualified, he could do nothing for the benefit and welfare of the society by doing a decent job in either the government or in private company. This shows how much a person suffers because of one wrong step in his or her life and career. As there is said, as it is said in the one English proverb, it is but a step from the sublime to the ridiculous. Perarivalan took such a step, and instead of becoming a nice, upstanding citizen of his own country, he was accused of harming his system, his government, and his society by providing an electronic battery to a terrorist who made a human bomb. We must all take a leaf out of the lives of guys like Per Arivalan and Murugan. We must remember that we should be very, very careful before taking a major decision. One slip there will throw us into a never ending abyss of hell, as where Arivalan and Murugan did. Instead, we must use our free will and Kriyamana Karma in such a way that in our future births and deaths we will become more and more better as upstanding citizens with a better character, and this will help us become more and more successful materialistically, then slip into spiritualism, get self realized, and finally get liberated from repeated births and deaths. This is possible only when we don't have any unworked karma remaining in our own sanchit karma. Or, in other words, there is another way through which we may escape this repeated birth and death in this material world by devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who we must reach as our ultimate aim through deliverance. Self realization, liberation from repeated births and deaths, and deliverance to the Supreme Personality of Godhead must be our actual aim in life. we need not be in this material world anymore. We have to be a part and parcel of the spiritual whole and not be just a spirit soul, so that our own life in the spiritual world becomes better and better. We qualify to be divine beings. That is all for my talk on this particular subject today. Kindly let me know what you think of my talk on this particular subject. Please give me your own expert views, ideas, and thoughts so that I may blend everything together for the sake of this society. Before concluding, let me remind you that I am also a published author with Amazon Kindle and paperback. I write on spiritualism, fiction, and assorted subjects. Spiritualism happens to be my favorite subject. Till we meet in my next video, it is good morning from TSV Raghavan